The space rivalry between Russia and the United States is gaining momentum. At the end of April, Moscow vetoed the Japanese-American initiative to ban the arms in space, which was supported by 13 of the 15 members of the UN Security Council. Then the Kremlin put forward its own resolution on the non-proliferation of weapons in space. Only 7 UN members voted for it, and the Security Council rejected Moscow's proposal. According to reports in Washington, in this way the Kremlin wants to divert the world's attention from the deployment of its own nuclear weapons in orbit.
We have heard President Putin say publicly that Russia has no intention of deploying nuclear weapons in space. If that were the case, Russia would not have vetoed that resolution. The world will not turn a blind eye to its dangerous and unprecedented efforts to develop a new satellite carrying a nuclear device, which undermines its obligations under the Outer Space Treaty and counters the views of an overwhelming majority of members of the Security Council. Robert Wood, U.S. alternate representative for special political affairs in the UN, at the UN General Assembly meeting.
This is not the first time that Russia's space activities have raised suspicions. Back in early February 2022, the Kremlin launched the Cosmos 2553 satellite into orbit. The Wall Street Journal, citing US officials, report that it is intended to test components of a potential anti-satellite weapon that could carry a nuclear device.
Russia said that their spacecraft is intended for scientific research, a claim that US officials said isn't plausible. Though the US has been aware that Russia was interested in a nuclear anti-satellite capability for years, it has only recently been able to better determine the program's progress. The eventual weapon could wipe out satellites in a part of space dominated by US government and commercial assets, including SpaceX Starlink constellations. From the publication by the Wall Street Journal.
According to experts, Russia has done a lot of work to prepare the ground for launching nuclear weapons into space. Moscow could deploy an anti-satellite nuclear device that could threaten spacecraft in low Earth orbit. Many satellites of American companies and government agencies are located there, they say. Analysts believe that Russian nuclear weapons in space will serve primarily for blackmail purposes.
Я не исключаю, что где-то на каких-нибудь переговорах или
I do not rule out that at some negotiations or through some roundabout ways, they will raise the following topic. If you want us to commit to stopping work and not deploying such weapons in space or other new missiles, okay. But then you undertake, for example, that in Kyiv there will be a regime friendly to us, and Ukraine will never be accepted into NATO, and no Western weapons will be supplied to Ukraine.
Back in 1967, the USA, Great Britain and the USSR signed an agreement on the non-placement of nuclear and other weapons of mass destruction in space. Subsequently, more than 100 countries joined it. Since the mid-2000s, Moscow has been trying to create an updated version of the agreement, but so far only Russia's allies in Africa and Asia have joined the Kremlin's initiative. Reported by Helena Babenko, Andriy Dmitrenko, UATV News.